It is my great privilege to share with you really something that I am so very excited about. This year, Mendon High School, Mendon teacher leadership and fellow administrator leadership has really led to something that I think is very, very important for our future as a school and within the context of the district mission and so on. So what I'm going to be talking about is, of course, our comprehensive action plan, and everyone will recognize the district mission and the district core values. You might want to take a quick look at the comprehensive action goal for us. Our goal was very specifically targeted at the district statements made in the document regarding the development of professional learning communities and response to intervention in the district. That's a long-term goal, and there's certainly steps that we've all been taking in all of the schools toward that goal for several years now. But this year was a particularly exciting new step for us. In particular, I'll show you the 4 subcommittees involved. So at first glance, you might not necessarily assume that all of this really relates to professional learning communities, but it does. Every subcommittee has a role that does relate very directly to a professional learning culture. And in that culture, these are all important things. Part of it is our own enhanced learning and continuing to learn as a staff regarding our what a professional learning community looks like, how to do it, how to make that work as our response to intervention at the same time, all in one big piece. Through that subcommittee, we engaged in surveying all of the collaborative teams to just learn again this year. We did it last year. This subcommittee did it again this year, trying to learn about what we're doing in those collaborative hours that we're spending, and using that to develop next steps for the coming year. Freshman social emotional learning is a critical piece. In any high school, of course, it always is anyway. That's the beauty of professional learning community work. It really does encompass the things that we just do. These are things that are always important to us. So the social emotional learning is critical because if our freshmen come in a way that really is emotionally ready to make that change, make that shift to the high school, then they're going to do better academically as well as people within our community. One of the big focus areas was alternative lunch environments for small groups. Our concern is we have that big commons. It's wonderful, kids love it, but not all kids love it. For some kids, they need a place that's apart, that's quiet, that's smaller, just a close group of friends, perhaps. So we worked on, the committee worked on that this year. Also, this is actually for next year. We've got plans in place for getting back to having music in the hallway before school starts. So a nice way to ease into the day right at the beginning. So those little things can make a big difference, and the committee's really excited about that. Academic and social behavior, and that's an important part of PLC. In PLC communities, they talk about this all the time. It's not just about the normal behavior things, discipline and all that. It's also about academic behaviors. How do we help students to be persistent, to take a risk academically, and so on. That committee has been working in that realm, and with that focus, really got very focused on that issue of if our students are not okay, then they're not going to learn. And so that was the focus of that group for all grade levels. But the big one that we really want to spend some time on with you is something involving time. Time is really critical in professional learning communities. We still don't have the time we need. Meeting once a month for an hour is actually problematic because a month later, the collaborative team is trying to figure out, well, what did we do a month ago? Where did we end up? What were we supposed to do and bring back, and those kinds of issues. It's not an effective way to collaborate, not as effective as what we would want. So we went after something that came back from actually Jude Dietz and Laura Hefner from an RTI workshop. Came back to us with something called a WIN schedule, what I need, and this is where Some of you have heard me say this year. You'll probably hear me again. And you'll hear it right now. I've always believed that I stand on the shoulders of giants. The giants in this case are people like Fred Rickey, who I'm going to ask to come on up here with me. He's our physical education teacher and department leader. I also want to mention some other key people. I mentioned Jude and Laura. Kelly Zelke had a huge role in especially some of the logistical parts of making this work. And Eric Domros. In fact, a lot of what you're going to see in terms of survey results, Eric put a huge amount of effort in, along with Fred. And Gwen Stavinsky and Kathy Kaufman. Kathy Kaufman, I just was amazing. She's our Infinite Campus guru, and we used Infinite Campus, a function in Infinite Campus that it's our understanding through Kathy that no one in the country yet who uses Infinite Campus has done what we did in making this happen. So, Fred.
Okay. This actually all started with a group of students came to ILT for the very first time, and they were coming to us with a problem. They were upset because it seemed like every major subject or test project was due at the exact same time. And they thought maybe we could work together and space out some of the due dates, their quality work would get better and make things a lot happier. But, as an ILT, we sat and gave them a lot of the adult answers about managing their time and prioritizing and making sure they got the good schedule. The truth of the matter, though, was that we really couldn't address that need. We had no way of knowing what the workload was for the students. We really had struggled to collaborate amongst ourselves in our own departments, let alone coordinate something across all the disciplines. So for the very first time, kids came to us with a problem and we swung and missed. And that frustrated a lot of us. Fast forward a year, and teachers now are coming to us and we're surveying them throughout the year, and the results of the survey, a lot of them deal with what the subcommittees that Karl founded, but over and over again, teachers were asking for time. Quality time with students, but also with colleagues. They wanted to work together. They didn't want to work in isolation. They didn't want to be sequestered off into a room. They saw the value in collaboration. So we formed our subcommittee, and after hearing from both groups, and we established our version of what I need. And the I really does represent both teachers and students. Now, I'm going to be honest. I've been there, done that, looking for time. Wasn't super excited about the issue. Didn't think, our whole committee, to be honest with you, didn't think it would end up with anything meaningful. We were doing it out of professional responsibility to our students and our teachers, and as a courtesy, but really, to be honest with you, we were expecting a roadblock. And then Infinite Campus came out with a new function that kind of changed everything. Responsive scheduling function in Infinite Campus allowed us to maybe find time for our students and teachers. Basically, what we could do is we could find the time and utilize our own resources. We could use our staff, our technology, and most importantly, our schedule, which was the first that I knew of. And so through the system, we cut our staff in half, not physically, but like half the teaching staff. And what they did with our non-teaching staff is they were winning it. They offered a win. And through the Infinite Campus function, what they were able to do was set up a win, populate it, leave open seats, and post it in less than 5 minutes. Students then could look at what was offered using their phone and enroll in a win in less time than that. So we cut the staff in half because while the non-teaching staff and half of our teaching staff were winning it, the other half was collaborating. And then we flip-flopped and offered it a second day. Now the cool part about this is the day of the win, students got a notification on their phone reminding them of where they were going during that win. So we just offered it as a regular General Assembly. So instead of the kids going to the gym for a pep rally, they went to a win. They got the reminder on their phone. Teachers got on Infinite Campus their WIN schedule. And we were able to run it twice. If you think about it, there's 4 registrations, students and teachers registering for each of them. And we got everybody where they were supposed to be. We didn't lose anybody, which was great. Where they were supposed to be, when they were supposed to be there. And we were able to utilize the room with administration's help. And it might not sound like a lot, but that was almost impossible without this function. So it was a logistical success. We're going to leave it at that. We knew going in, though, that we were so overly concerned with content, with logistics, that we were going to struggle with some content. There was just no doubt about that. We didn't have the time to sit down on staff and say, help them, support them on what they could be offering. We also didn't do a great job with students saying, hey, if you aren't selected for a WIN and you go to register, here are some of the things that you could possibly do. The time committee ran out of time. So we knew going into the WIN, even though we were pretty successful in the fact of getting it where we needed to, that we had some major holes with content. And what our kids did, or teachers offered, was everything from academic intervention to all the way through enrichment. So we ran the gamut, but it still wasn't as strong as we would have liked it. Now, I kind of prepped the committee that we had post surveys, and I kind of let them know, like, hey, you know, even though we did a decent job, don't expect the surveys to come back with strong results. And for the first time in my life, I was wrong. 98 out of 126 students thought it was a meaningful day, which is at 80%, which, to be honest with you, was more than we really anticipated. And about 73 out of 76 teachers had met their expectations. So that's well over 90%. Those numbers carried through when we asked if they wanted to continue. But I think more than those numbers, which were great, was that we got over 200 suggestions for improvement, which was great for some people, not for the people who actually read the surveys. But we had about 150 of those suggestions were viable. 17 came from 30 of the students that said they didn't want to do it again. We realized pretty quickly that whether you were a student or a teacher, whether you liked it or you didn't, you saw it for what it was, something with great potential. And that got us excited. The other thing that we noticed too was that, this was intentional too, but we actually crowdsourced content. So we got information from all the stakeholders, and what was our weakness going in, to be honest with you, if we do it again, will be our strength, based on the feedback given back from teachers. Now, we learned a couple other things too, some good, some bad. We learned how students, freshmen through seniors, use Infinite Campus, stuff that we didn't realize. We also found out that students actually value collaboration, teacher collaboration in their own, as much as teachers do, which was interesting. So I promised Mike I'd be quick, so I'm going to play a video of our students. If you have any questions, the plan moving forward, we are tomorrow going to do a much deeper presentation to ILT, kind of going through more of a precise plan for next year and then the year after. And then we're hoping by the end of next week or the week after that we'll be sitting down with Sutherland leadership and talking to them about piloting a joint school attempt at WIN. So I'll play the video and hopefully this works.
Before the WIN period, I was a little bit stressed because I still had a lot of work to get done. And after it, I was kind of relieved because I was able to do this work inside of school and not have it be a burden on whatever I'm doing outside of school.
And after WIN, I kind of used it to decompress, de-stress, and it was really helpful for my academics.
Common problem I have in the classroom is finding time to meet with students when they need extra help. Often they have packed schedules, and lining up our free periods is really difficult sometimes. So from the beginning, it worked out really well, and it was a nice relief in the weeks leading up to it to know that that time was coming if we didn't have common time. And I only signed up a few students, but the rest of the spots filled really quickly because the students were eager to get in there and have some time to work.
I'm the all-school treasurer, so the woman who helps me with the treasuring duties called me in to work in her office, and it gave me an opportunity to spend time on something that I normally wouldn't have time to go and do.
I play sports both in the winter and in the spring, so I never really get to come after school because I have practice to see my teachers. So it was really helpful for me to go in during the wind period to see my teachers, to go over like missing work or tests that I can't do after school.
Before the wind period, I had a lot of work to do, especially in art class. But thanks to the wind period, I was able to catch up with my artwork and was able to complete it on time.
But I also heard positive feedback from my colleagues. They felt like the time was incredibly important to have that collaboration with their peers, with their colleagues, but also the one-on-one or the small groups with their students to do meaningful work that they can't always get to during the regular class periods.
There was a really great energy to that period and the whole day. You could tell that the students were really excited. It was easy to sign up and the directions were really clear. And I think it could be a really valuable tool if it was implemented regularly for both students who want a challenge and for those who need extra help.
That concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much. You may.
Karl and Fred, I want to compliment both of you and all of those that have worked so hard on this for not only taking a huge risk in doing this, because it truly was a huge risk in many facets, but also taking the risk because you thought it was best for students. And then not just trying it and letting it go and seeing how it went, but also trying it, planning for it, trying it, and then assessing it. And surveying the students and surveying the staff, and then looking at the feedback and looking at ways to improve it. And then parallel to all of that, looking at our sister school, or your sister school at Sutherland, to be able to share best practices to see if we can do something different or better with this project. So hats off to both of you and many more. But I think that what you did, and believe me, we've gone through our scheduling problems, is absolutely amazing, and I know how much time you spent with this, so thank you.